upgrades.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for yet another non-spoiler movie review. 2013's, oh man, I said 2013, 2023's Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Me, Lucas, Jorge, we're about to go deep in on this, but we can't talk about much. So, hey, what's going on, gentlemen?
Are we gonna go deep or are we gonna go small into this?
I don't know.
Nothing.
It depends on what
That's
you
why you
mean by
call this
that.
2013, because time means nothing. You don't know how time works.
Hey, you know what? This is why you got a great team to help you in situations like this. But backdrop of this is Ant-Man. His daughter Cassie, she's all grown up. She wants to kind of prove herself. She's working on an experiment of figuring out what the quantum universe is. And of course, something goes terribly wrong and they are stuck there, as the trailer shows. This is gonna be interesting to talk around. This technically is classified as the first phase
Phase
5
5.
movie.
Yeah. Yep.
So you have big things that they're trying to set up, but at the same as that time, they're always trying to add to the roster, which namely is why Cassie Lane is involved in this one. What did we think about this one, guys? Without going too deep into it.
Oh, my first. So I can
Yeah,
go first.
we'll let you go first, Lucas.
Okay. So, for the start of Phase 5, this is a bit of a disappointment to start off Phase 5. But I'll go even further because I don't like that people think Phase 5 is supposed to change everything. This is the multiverse saga that started in Phase 4. This for the multiverse saga is possibly the 5th best movie. I want y'all to think about the other movies in this saga for me to say this is the 5th best one. And I'm being kind here because Spider-Man shouldn't count. Shang-Chi, I would prefer to watch Black Widow before I watch this movie again. I would probably even prefer to watch Eternals before I watch this movie again. This movie, it's all over the place with its tone. It's all over the place with its CGI visual effects. It's just all over the place, and it never settles on actually being an Ant-Man movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Jorge?
saying more.
Yeah,
You
no,
get me to go on.
I think you kind of like hit it with that last thing you said. This doesn't feel like an Ant-Man movie. I actually thought some of the best parts of Ant-Man were kind of like his whole crew that he
Yeah.
always had around him. And this one just missed for me. It'll be interesting to see what comes of this movie, but I could very easily have never watched this movie and still be in the know-how of everything that's going to be happening, moving forward. And I think that's the shame. Like this didn't bring any added bonus to me. But yeah, that's just my quick take on it.
Yeah. For me, I feel like the movie felt like different movies spread around. There's a movie that came out to Disney Plus called Strange Worlds. If you watch Strange Worlds and you go and watch this, you will understand it.
Actually came in theaters, and you keep on saying Disney Plus like it's a Disney Plus movie.
You know what? I'm gonna give them grace on that, but yeah. Anyway, when you see certain creatures and themes, it takes luxuries from that. Starship Troopers, Star Trek, there are certain
It's
things
another
and
movie.
elements that they're kind of pulling from that I was like, okay, I don't know what they're trying to go with this narrative. Now, saying all that, I do think it was very interesting setup in the very beginning with the big bag for Kang, played by Jonathan Majors. I think that the initial setup for him was executed pretty well to build up anticipation for him. There's a scene with I think Cassie and Scott and Kang. I felt it was like, okay, this is a really interesting, menacing scene. It was set up pretty well. I also felt like in this movie that worked, I guess, pretty well was actually Michelle Pfeiffer. I think that there are certain scenes with her in this one, especially the first half and the second half, that they did decent setup for her and good world building for a certain other character. And I felt like if they would have leaned into that and possibly some PTSD and trauma, I think that that would have been a very fascinating angle to take this with. But I think that Michelle Pfeiffer did a really good job of what she was given. It's I think things just at a certain point, best I can say is the jump. When that happens, the movie just kind of goes this route for me, unfortunately, to the point that
Mm.
I could not get behind what they were trying to do. And the CG yet again in another Marvel movie, I don't know what's going on, if it's being rushed, if it's that they don't think that we see it or care, but the CG for some reason is just not landing like it even did in phase one. I don't know if you guys want to speak towards that, but there were certain key characters in this that the CG to me was just abysmal. I normally
Well,
don't
it was
word, but
it. It definitely felt rushed. It felt at one point like possibly they were trying to pay homage to an older generation of sci-fi films, which I thought would have been really cool if you lean into that with uh, enhancements of technology and make the film look amazing while keeping that retro feel.
Yeah.
But no, it was just bad CGI, and that's not a good thing. Even the opening scene of the movie, it felt so fake because the scene looked so poorly done. So
yeah.
again, it could be a situation where they are rushing these. We understand that that was part of the issue that some VX people had with Marvel is that they rushed their VX, and here it felt that way. It takes you out of the film because at times the film can be intriguing with the storyline, but then the VX will just take you completely out of it.
Yeah.
And that's something, especially for a movie like this, like an Ant-Man sequel. Maybe this wasn't the way to go with it because maybe you weren't willing to put the budget necessary to make this into a better film.
Yeah, I think something that really struck to me in this film is you could you could vividly tell how much green screen they were using.
Mm,
Like it's not even I don't it didn't even like blend well. It was just like very very noticeable. Which I hate saying it, like you don't expect that from a Marvel movie, or you shouldn't expect that.
that-
Like if this was like on Disney Plus or even like, just on normal television, okay, I can understand.
mhm.
But you got Marvel money. Like you should be able to do some decent CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
also like the more I'm digesting this movie, it seems as Marvel is putting more effort into their villains than they are into the plot and the whole actual movie.
Mm,
Because the past few movies that have come out from Marvel, the villains steal the show, and the villains are
Yeah,
really the only thing that you want to see in the movie more and more.
mm,
Um, so I think that's going to be. I'm wondering how they're going to address that, because I mean, it's this. It's almost like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, where any scene that Neymar was in, like he stole. And here, any scene that Jonathan, was in, he was outdoing everybody else in the sense of like just his presence. Um, which is great if you're doing like a Thanos type setup, but I feel this has now become like a new pattern that I'm starting to see So yeah, that one's a weird one for me.
So
It,
would you
it
say
could be
that?
because they gave him. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
Okay,
I'm about to say it could be because they gave him 86 monologues in his film. Like every time he spoke, it was in a monologue. Not one single time did he just say, "Yeah, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z." It was, but if we do X, Y, Z, then we're gonna do X, Y, Z, and you just don't understand why X and Y will equal Z and possibly B also. Like it was always just that. For to me, it was Michelle Pfeiffer that stole this show. This is a Janet film.
Yeah,
And to me, I couldn't take my eyes off of her every time she was on screen because, as Sam said, if they would have done the PTSD route, just the look in her eyes at times was enough to let you know, like, this is somewhere we don't need to be. This is something we need to worry about. It was a great performance by her. And then Jonathan had monologues over and over and over and over again.
so this is the other thing that I was gonna bring up is that the the chemistry and even like the feeling of love in this as far as the character interactions, I felt like Jonathan and Michelle had interesting chemistry, but I
yeah,
didn't feel that chemistry from Scott and his daughter. I didn't feel that from Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer. And it was even more weird was the fact that I don't know, I'm gonna shut up. I can't talk about it. But it was just weird because I didn't feel actual chemistry between the actors. It was
yeah,
kind of like it wasn't until we got to see certain interactions between Michelle Pfeiffer and Jonathan Majors that I was kind of like, okay, this is really engaging, interesting. Even the whole movie, the name of these movies is Ant-Man and the
Man,
Wasp.
wow.
I never felt any romantic connection or even chemistry. I don't think they were in any of the scenes. Never mind. Slow it down.
I
So
mean,
we
they
should
were
though, we
interesting.
should let people know though, like there is a very strict embargo on this. So doing this review is very difficult because it's like absolute zero spoilers. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's very difficult right now, at least for the three of us to discuss this. So just know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just holding back because I'm not gonna be the angry Marvel guy this time.
But I am going to
Just
show
gonna
you
say,
guys this. So
like,
remember what I said originally, right? So take a look at this visually, right? You see this, and now immediately watch this. Is this not this?
I mean, it's. But here's the thing. I think they wanted this to be a grand scale film, but it
Yeah.
just feels like they weren't willing to put the budget behind it to make it a grand scale
Yeah.
film. Like this isn't like the last Ant-Man movie. I think it had a really decent budget, but you really needed to up this budget up to match the characters, the story, and everything you wanted to do with this film.
Yeah.
And at times it felt like I was watching Crisis on Infinite Earths on CW. And I was like, oh, y'all must have the same person who does your CG and VFX as the CW because that's what it feels like at times here. And it didn't make sense because, as Jorge said, like, this is, in the end, this is a Disney movie.
Yeah.
We just saw a Disney movie with great visual effects. Granted, the budget was crazy, but at least half of that budget, you could have gotten really decent visual effects here. Or how about you just say, hey, James, how about you come in, take this movie, and fix everything we did wrong with it and let him work it? Like, I don't like to feel like I don't want it to come across like we're downing the film, but we're noticing flaws that should have been fixed. One of the biggest ones, the director should have been changed. This was a completely sci-fi film. How about you lean into that by hiring someone who knows how to make sci-fi films?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think that's true. I think with the way that they tried making this film such a grand view into all like this quantum realm and all this,
Hmm.
it felt very flat. And it felt like there were just, five rooms that they just kept going back and forth into.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which is rough because I mean, we've seen movies where most of it happens in one room and it feels large and it
Yeah,
feels grand, you know?
Yeah.
And yet you have this where you have an infinite amount of space, and yet I felt like I've repeated, like I saw multiple things multiple
mhm,
times when
Yeah.
you shouldn't.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say earlier. I was kind of like, I think what they tried to do with this, they try to make it is kind of like Civil War because you add in like a really big bad in it, and it's not, it doesn't feel like an Ant-Man movie where it's like Captain America Civil War doesn't really feel like,
it is not a
a
Captain
Captain
America
America
movie.
movie. But
Mhm.
with this, the thing is the trade-off for Ant-Man is, he's a breath of fresh air. Like, is the comedy is always there. Like Jorge kind of expressed before, like the conversations and the dynamics between him and his crew has always been an engaging part. And they're kind of stripped from this. And so it leaves the movie feeling lifeless and at the time feeling a little dark. But it's
Yeah,
weird because I don't have an issue with the darkness if it's executed well or if there's a purpose behind where it's going. There were times I was kind of like, I don't really need Cassie in this movie.
not at
And
all.
when you have a character like her that's being pushed the way that they're trying to push her, that's not good. That's not a good thing. There are a couple different characters in this that I felt like could have been just removed out and just honed more into the science fiction, honed more into Michelle Pfeiffer's trauma being in this world, and then dealing with what the ramifications of this world is. I think you could have had a good sci-fi flick, but because that's not where they went with it, it makes this feel lifeless at times. And I think that's really how I felt at the end of the movie. Like the end of the movie feels very convoluted. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it kind of irritates me. And irritates me to the point that I felt in Thor: Love and Thunder. And I don't want to go down that road again, but I don't know any other else to compare it to
You
without.
know what this movie was missing? Michael Pena. I never thought I would say
Yes,
that.
yes,
Could
a
you like
1000%, sir.
he brings such a unique element to that team because I'd be fine without Ti being in it or any of that stuff.
Yeah,
But adding like a Michael Pena type character who can, even if it's for 3 minutes, giving him like
yeah,
his hilarious little lines, like it. The thing that made Ant-Man to me so intriguing and fun for the first and second one were the comedic aspect of it and
yeah,
the ability to like just bring light to all these like situations, you know? Um, and this one, it's almost like if it tried taking itself too serious just because they were,
yeah.
introducing, a new big bad guy.
Mm,
And I think that is its downfall. Like if you it, I wish they would have stayed in their lane. And maybe that's being too harsh, but it's you have a nice little niche inside of here where you don't take yourself too serious. Like Ant-Man was always the light movie, like the one that you can just click on and you're gonna get some laugh, you'll get some cool little action
mhm.
scenes. But
A palate cleanser.
yeah, like it's just a nice little thing to go through. So I think that that's one of the big for me, one of the big ones that, you know, I think this movie dropped the ball in. And it's nothing against, Paul, because you know, I think the characters did well, but I think they work so much better as a team. And
Yeah,
here it was very much a singular effect. Like you took the it's almost like having a Power Rangers movie, but only having it with like the Yellow Ranger. Where
yeah,
you're
Mm,
like, it's like this could work. Like you could have like just a Green Ranger movie. We'll go with the Green Ranger because that was more Green or White Ranger. But you could do a movie on them, but it just makes so much more sense to have the full team together.
yeah,
And I feel
it,
this.
it, yeah, you get stuck because Ant-Man is now possibly the one of the lead Avengers all of a sudden.
yep,
Yeah,
And because he is, you kind of have to strip away the childlike innocence and joy that you normally would get from the first Ant-Man movie. And it started with the second one, and here they just amped it up to a different level because you're introducing big elements to your saga moving forward, and you're using an Ant-Man movie to do it. And then it feels like you're now, where at one point in time the Ant-Man movies were on the outside looking in, they're now firm in place. Like, no, these are now supposed to be big story films. These are supposed to be things that drive the saga forward, when that was never what Ant-Man was supposed to be from the beginning to the audience. And I think this is just going to be a shock to some people's system. Like, hey, Ant-Man is no longer that little film, the little budgets and everything else, the way it was hyped up with the first Ant-Man film. Like, nah, this is a bigger budget, granted, not nearly as big as they needed to be. And we're just not going to give you the joy that you're accustomed to getting from it. But we're not shooting it in a way that's going to intrigue you a lot. It reminded me a lot of Star Trek Into the Darkness, where it was so convoluted.
Yep.
And you're just like, oh my God, like if you all just focus on a key element of the story, you can have a great movie, but instead you let it go everywhere. The only difference is, at least Into the Darkness treated their budget properly. Here you're stuck with it, and you're kind of wondering, as Jorge said, like it feels like we were going in the same scenes over and over again, and they say, hey, we're gonna use the same backdrop, new scene. We're gonna use the same backdrop, new scene. Like it just didn't feel like the world was as big as they needed it to be. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah. Real quick, Mike, because I know we're about to wrap up. What was some positives that you have to talk about Ant-Man 3? And then what were some things that you felt like, no? So, but positive first, and then we're gonna round this out.
Some positives that now, moving forward, I don't take anything what they say as seriously anymore. I don't take what Kevin Feige says anymore. I honestly, and I think the positive is now I have now I have evolved now into, I guess, the grown adults now of fandom, where it's like you're watching this thing, and now I don't have any the naiveness of a Marvel fan where I'm expecting something just to be good because, like, oh, I knows what they have done before, but what had they have done before, you know, it's not what it is today. Unfortunately, these violent delights will have violent ends, and today I have accepted that. So, the one of the negatives, and that's the way they just as this is me monologuing because I'm taking what they taught me, right? So
You're doing the
like,
Jonathan Majors. Go ahead,
right,
continue.
rather I'm just gonna tell you, not show you. But
Let
but
the
listen,
hate in. Let the
one
hate
of the
in.
things I found very, very appalling. Well, I kept saying the word. I kept at the end was CW, right? And very at the end, there's a lot of I saying the visual effects of it. It's just like this is malpractice at this point, like almost at this point, just knowing that you are not a a thousand or a million, you're $1 billion company, for a fact that this is a chump change for you in terms of what you've done. But now we got blue screen and we're emphasizing the IMAX and everything. We've come off the backs of Avatar, no disrespect, obviously, The Last of Us, and all these other things that have probably have almost the same bankroll as Disney or the Mouse does. Don't tell me the Mouse doesn't have more money or doesn't have less money than Warner Brothers and all the other properties, right? And the fact that they're doing this is this the bar now? As us now that we've just now we've become complacent with just mediocrity being the standard. The fact that you let MODOK be the way he is, if that's what you're telling me, as someone who invested in this property for over almost 20 years,
Okay, all right. That's I feel like this picture is Lucas right now. This is Lucas. This is Lucas right now. This is Lucas right now. So we're
Next,
just
I'm gonna get him to
gonna
take out some youngerlings. That's what's gonna happen next.
we're gonna close out shop. I'm not even gonna talk about the score, the cinematography. It's not worth going over this time.
No, not in this film.
If I may, I will say the
No,
one thing
no.
on the con. Oh, it's on the con. You just said, I'm not going on a tangent. Really, I felt the damage that's being done now is that they're not almost the curse of Marvel Phase 4 that we always were talking about. I think there was that I kept seeing that going around, and the fact that they're kind of making this as the total pole thing, being the catalyst for us going into the next not only this phase but the conclusion of this saga. This was not really, that this off to a bad start, and then this was supposed to be the person, the Thanos level version that you're supposed to have. As someone who was a fan of this actor and everything, and I want to see the best from him. I just want him. I don't want him to be put in a position where obviously he's being given false promises as an actor. What the story that he said, oh, this is a great character, give you range as an actor, but the storyline we're gonna give you is not gonna put you in the best circumstances as your performance as an actor. That was my fear.
On that note, what are we rating this from A to F? Jorge, we'll go around the circle. Jorge,
You might as well let Mike start first because he's right there. Let Mike start first. Mike, what do you
are
rate this from A to F?
I know it's only fresh, for me. I'm just gonna be realistic here. I'm not gonna say, oh, there's no F. Like, no. I'll say a D. You might get credit, but you ain't, that you took a class, but it doesn't meet the standard requirements for you for a potential degree. So I'll say a D.
Okay.
All right, Lucas.
Oh, I was next. Okay. Because this is my favorite Marvel series. That's hard to say. This movie on the CG alone is an F. I'm not giving this movie credit for anything. It looks so poorly done. I don't know why it looks as poorly done. I don't understand the confusion with the plot. I don't understand the decisions that are made in this film. I don't understand the Ant-Man science, which they've been doing for years now. We should become accustomed to it. But here it's just at a level where it's just ridiculous. This is, again, the 5th best movie of this multiverse phase.
Dang. Okay. Jorge.
Right. Yeah, I think this is like a D plus. And the only reason I think I give it a D plus is because I'm hoping, and this is just like blind hope, that it will lead to something better. I am intrigued how they're going to use, like Jonathan moving forward in this saga. But the CG really killed it for me. Not like taking themselves too serious killed it for me. Like I miss like Ant-Man 1 and 2, and that's weird to say. But I miss that, like, that funness to it. Like this one didn't seem fun. But yeah, but that's where I put it. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, man, I'm in between a D plus and a C minus, honestly. I think the things that maybe push it to a C minus is Michelle Pfeiffer. I think her scenes with Jonathan, and then the setup with her, and then some of the backstory with her I didn't think I cared about that story arc, and they found a way of making it work. But I think if they would have leaned into that, if that would have been the cornerstone, I didn't need Cassie for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that would have been a good nudge to a person that she sees in there, and then you kind of go from there. But just her tribulations about that and anxieties with it could have made a very interesting storyline. It didn't have to. I mean, I do miss the old Ant-Man. I do miss the comedy with this, but I think they could have took a better approach with the science fiction aspect of it, because Scott, being in the science fiction world, he would geek out and nerd about anyway, because that's just who Scott is. Scott would be like, what the heck is that? Oh my gosh. He would be flipping out and be, charismatic as he normally is, because he's a natural comedian. Like Paul is a natural comedian. So he can make fun with everything. But instead, with Cassie being there, he's always pivoting. So we're not seeing him at his best comedically. So I'm in between C- and a D+. I do think that there was good setup for Kang in the beginning. I do think that there is a story there that they can go with if I whittle through it in my head, but I can't talk about it here. So I think that's where I'm at.
I'll just say this just to defend my F a little bit. We all just spent 30 minutes talking about an Ant-Man and Wasp movie and notice no one mentioned the performance of Paul Rudd. That should be extremely telling to you, because that's the sad part. This should have been his coming out party, his big film, and instead we mentioned everyone else's performance but him. How you have an Ant-Man movie and Ant-Man is a supporting character?
Hey, it's a Civil War all over again, but I'm not gonna go there. Mike, where can everybody?
Even in Civil War, Captain America's storyline was the key central one. Him, Bucky, and Iron Man. You can't say that about Scott here. You can literally remove him from this movie, and it wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, that's the same thing that we dealt with Thor 4.
Yep.
But yeah, Mike, where can everybody find you, man?
You can find me on my channel at Jedi Mike 7. I do movie reviews and breaking things down, commentary and everything like that. But you also see me on this channel as well. And going on throughout this year, more content coming through. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, comment, like, and share. Hit the notification bell on my platform and also on this platform. Well, you can see me here. And pray for me.
Dang. Well, you guys know who Lucas and Jorge is, so they don't. But description bar below. You'll find our content down below. But we'll be back for more reviews coming.
One last Marvel movie. One. I got one more in me. After that, I'm done. I'm no longer getting joy out of talking negatively about these films anymore. So you give me one more time. One more. So come on, Brie Larson. I'm holding out hope here. I'm holding out hope.
No, they got
Guardians.
Guardians. You got Guardians of the Galaxy.
Brie Larson, I'm holding out hope for you.